Hey guys, it's Maxine and thank you so much for watching. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing a balayage on my client who has very, very naturally dark hair. I would say her natural level is like a 2, and she doesn't have any color on her ends previously. It's all virgin hair. And yeah, we're basically going to lift this as light as possible and keeping those like ashier tones. So it's going to end up being like a caramel color, but it comes out so pretty. And I'm definitely going to share all of my formulas with you in this entire video and the step-by-step process on how I'm going to get her from a very, very dark natural color to a caramel balayage. So yeah, definitely stay tuned and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos, especially color videos, and I posted a haircut video recently. But yeah, definitely stick around, subscribe to my channel, join my YouTube family to see more, hairstylist content and color videos. And definitely follow my Instagram. It's at Maxine Glynn. I have it posted in the description, linked in the description, so check that out. I post all of my written out formulas on there, so you can see it all written out. But yeah, everything's posted on there. Also, don't forget to hit the bell to turn on post notifications so that you're always notified every time I upload a new video. And don't forget to also allow notifications from the app YouTube itself so that if you turned on your post notifications, that will definitely make it pop up. It has to also be turned on for YouTube. Also, leave any questions or comments you have in the description or in the comment section because I definitely try to answer as many as possible. And yeah, so if you want to see me turn my client's natural, really dark hair into a beautiful caramel balayage, then definitely keep watching. Okay, so the first thing that I'm doing is mixing up Matrix Light Master with 40 volume and 30 volume, which is going to make a 35 volume. She definitely needs a lot of lift in her hair, obviously, since her hair is a natural level 2, and the underlying pigment in her natural hair is super dark red and really dark orange, and we have to pass a lot of these really, really warm stages to get to our yellow stage, which is in the caramel colors and stuff. So yeah, mixing up a really strong lightener is super important, and I really like the medium consistency. I don't like if it's too thick, if it doesn't move in the, bowl, but I also don't like if it's too watery, so something in the middle. I'm also taking into consideration that her hair is super healthy, so we can go pretty strong on her hair. Obviously, if they have more damaged hair or something, you don't want to use 40 volume on their hair. But yeah, in this case, we can go for it. I'm starting off this balayage by parting my client's hair where she usually does part it, which happens to be in the middle. And also it's good to do it in the middle if they're the type of client that goes either way with their hair. That way it'll be even and they can do whatever they want. And I'm taking the section from the crown down to the very back of the ear. That way the side is thick enough. And I'm going to be starting in the back by the nape. I like to start in the nape so that when this piece is the first piece to be processed, when I'm done applying all of the lightener, then I can lay my client comfortably back into the sink and rinse out this first piece that's done processing or the first section. But yeah, so I'm starting in the nape. And on this first piece, I just take one slice that's thick enough that it's not entirely see-through through this slice, but it's also thin enough that you can kind of see through it. You don't want it to be too thick. If you're lifting super dark hair, it's almost the thinner the better. But yeah, so I'm taking a big slice and I'm painting all of the ends halfway down the strand. You saw, I saturated all the ends first. And now I'm creating my shape and I'm feathering it up. The shape is more of a V shape. And I'm just creating the V shape and I'm feathering it up using my color brush. I'm just kind of back combing this color up towards the root. And that just really helps to, diffuse the line so that it's not so strong. And then I like to lay it in a foil and stick the ends to the side of the foil. And this is the part where I wipe off my hands. I don't always show it, so just know that that's the part where I wipe off my hands. And then I sandwich the top foil over the top. I don't always fold my foils either. Sometimes it's kind of wasted time, but sometimes you do need to fold them. It just depends. So You know, if you feel like the foils are going to slip, then definitely kind of fold the ends in a bit, but a lot of times I don't fold them. And yeah, so now I skipped a slice. Now I have hair kind of like in the middle there, just laying out. I'm not painting that. And now I took another slice. This is the one I'm painting now, and I'm just doing it the same way. I saturated the ends halfway down the strand, completely saturated, and I kind of fold the ends up in my hand so that they're not just flopping around. And then I make my V shape and I feather up towards the root. And definitely never forget to go underneath and feather the underneath parts, because you want to make sure that those lines are diffused also. And yeah, I'm sectioning it into my foils. And I go, like, as I'm getting towards the top of the head, like you saw, I just did one slice and skipped a section and did another slice. But now that I'm getting closer to like the middle part of the back of the head, obviously like this gets wider as you get like to this middle part here. So I'm going to be doing 2 slices next to each other now. So I'm doing a slice on the left and then a slice on the right, but I'm still leaving out hair in the middle. I just like to point that out though, so that you know that, because I don't always show this. I'm showing this right now, like the left section, but I won't always show it because it's not like the best camera angle. But just know that as I'm getting to like these wider sections in this back middle part, I'm doing a slice on the left and a slice on the right. And yeah, I'm just painting this the exact same way I did the other 2 pieces, and I'm going to go all the way up to the very top of the back of the head. And when I get to the crown, which is the very top, that's like the section that gets like not as wide, kind of like the nape. So then I'm going to be going back to just the 1 slice, but you'll see when I get up to that part. Okay, so now I've worked my way all the way up to the crown, and as you can see, like I said before, the section is definitely not as wide, so now I'm just going back to the 1 slice going down. Okay, so I already went ahead and did the left side of the head, and that's because the camera angle isn't the best, so I like to show this side. And I'm doing the exact same shape and pattern, but this is the first slice that I'm taking near like the temple above the ear, and I'm doing the same thing. Except in the face frame section, like this very front piece, I really like to feather this lightener on the very front piece as well. Like, so I go on the other pieces, like on the top and the bottom, but on this very front piece, I make sure to feather the very front as well, because like balayage is supposed to give the illusion that it's like naturally lightened in the sun, or if your hair's up, like you want the lightener and the face frame blonde pieces to just look really nice and natural and not stripy. So if I like to feather around like this triangle kind of section, so on the top, on the front, and on the bottom, and just gives a really, really nice naturally lightened type of color. And yeah, so that's just like, I like to go a little bit more above and beyond with the face frame. This is the piece that the clients see. I know most stylists do the same thing, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, this is the piece that the client really likes to see the most, which is the face frame. And when they put their hair up, they want to feel like it's nice and blended and everything. So yeah, the face frame is pretty important. So I like to definitely feather the lightener up and perfect it, and then put it in the foil and let it process. So I'm going to speed up the next couple of sections just so that it's not boring to watch, but definitely keep watching because I'm going to give like little tips and tricks of what I'm doing along the way, just so you know. Yeah, definitely keep watching. Another tip in the face frame is I definitely like to hit the points in the face frame that it's gonna look like the most naturally lightened by the sun. So the first section I take is below the temple. The second section that I take is above the temple. This third section that I take is like right above the eyebrow somewhere. And I know like everybody's head and face shape is like different, so sometimes I'll take more sections and sometimes I'll take less, but the general kind of like rule of thumb that I like to follow is, like I said, the first section below the temple, the second one above the temple, this third one above the eyebrow, and then as I get to like the top points of the head, it's more kind of concentrating around their part. Like I want to make sure that the next couple of points, as I'm getting closer to the top, is concentrated on where their part is. So yeah, just so you know, obviously then we're getting to where their part is, like on the sides sometimes around this section, but above their eyebrow usually is concentrating on where the part is, if that makes sense. But in this case, my client parted in the middle, so this is the last section that I'm working on right now, concentrating kind of like around the temple eyebrow area, and then like if they're parting in the middle, that's when I'm going to start the next couple of sections, kind of concentrating on the face frame near the middle part, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just like to point that out because I feel like the sun like naturally lightens hair. Like, I don't know, like unless you're working on like a super, super blonde client, like if their natural, if their natural color is, let's say like a dark blonde, and then their, highlight color is a light blonde, then it kind of doesn't really matter hitting these points because the sun will naturally lighten the entire hairline, and you almost want to just lighten the entire hairline and not like really skip any sections. But in this case, since the client is naturally like a level 2 and you don't want to lighten every single piece, like in between these really light pieces, there's going to be a level 2 like dark stripe, so that's kind of what I'm trying to point out. Like the sun will naturally lighten certain points in the hairline, not entirely the entire hairline, especially in a client this dark. So yeah, on a client that's like super, super light, you can just skip what I'm saying and just lighten the whole, face frame, the whole entire hairline. But in this case, I'm definitely trying to kind of pick apart like certain highlight points, like peaks, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's just a trick kind of I wanted to point out so that you don't think I'm just taking like random slices. I do have a little bit of like a method in the face frame of why I'm taking like certain sections and how I'm kind of spacing them apart. I'm keeping a slice of hair out in the middle, but I'm spacing them apart so that my highlight ends up landing on that certain point. Yeah. So I just wanted to point that out. But I'm almost done with the side and we're about to be on our last piece. So stay tuned for my color melt formula. I usually never care about how wide my section is technically if it's going into a foil. Like, I don't like try to fit it into the foil. If I end up having some of the root like pieces kind of coming like through the foil not fitting, then I just layer a couple of horizontal pieces of foil to make that section wider so that it can stay in the foil. Like, you definitely want to cover it. You don't want like the lightener to come out of the foil and bleed onto the rest of the pieces. But, you know, it doesn't stop me from taking a little bit wider of a section, and I don't want to have to worry about fitting it into the foil. So I do this a lot where I'll layer like a horizontal foil, just in case you were wondering why I did that. I'm not like kneading it for extra heat or anything like that. It's just to prevent the lightener from coming out and bleeding onto the rest. Yeah. Okay, and now I'm finally on my last section. This is the very top of the face frame, and I'm doing the same thing like I did on all the other pieces. I'm saturating from the middle of the strand down, and obviously this varies in all different clients, but my client definitely wanted to see a decent amount of some caramel blonde, so, or as light as blonde as we can, you know. So yeah, I'm doing the same thing, and I like to fold up the ends of where I put the lightener all over to saturate it really well. I like to fold up the ends in my hand while I'm painting the rest of the slice, just so that they're not like flapping around all over and touching everything else. So I fold up the ends and I lay it in my hand, you can see here. And now I'm painting the V like I do on all the other pieces, painting the V, giving it a little bit more of a bolder stripe in the very front, just so that like she can really see a nice face frame. And also another tip is like, in the face frame part with the lightener, don't be afraid to go like extra stripy on this front part. Like with the lightener, make it like super bold, super stripy, because honestly, like the color melt and the glazing, it tones it all back down later. Like it really just kind of erases the stripiness and the boldiness. So if you go too light on the stripiness in the front, they end up not really having like that much of a face frame. It just looks like highlighted, if that makes sense. So don't be afraid to go a little bit bolder, especially if you're going to be doing a color melt. you know, I would hope that you do a toner. I always tone anytime I do highlights. But yeah, that just erases all of the harshness. So that's just a little tip. I always go a little bolder in the face frame on purpose, knowing that it's going to be erased in the color melt. But I just feel like that helps the face frame really stand out. So yeah, anyway. And then I'm going to be feathering like the underneath like I usually do on all the other pieces, just so that it's definitely nice and feathered and there's no harsh lines. Like I said, the glaze erases any harshness, but like, you know, you want this color to last super long for your client. You don't want them to have to feel like they have to maintain it in 6 weeks. A balayage is supposed to last somebody like 6 months, you know? So like in like 6 to 8 weeks, when their glaze color kind of starts to fade away a little and, you know, stuff like that, it should still look beautiful like as it's growing out and seamless. This is like the little trick to help it be seamless. Definitely feathering it up and blending it a lot with the lightener helps, so that even like after the glaze kind of wears away after like 8 weeks, it still is continuing to grow out nice and seamless. That's like, I don't know, I just feel like really important, you know, for the client. I mean, balayage takes a couple of hours to do for sure. It's a little bit pricier of a service, but the thing that is worth it is that it's like no maintenance. The client doesn't have to come back for like 6 months. So feathering with the lightener and doing all the blending and not just relying on the glaze to do the blending is, I think, super important. But yeah, I just like to point that out. So I always go like extra and above, make sure this lightener is super blended, because if it doesn't look blended on the on the strand that you're painting, like if there's any harsh like lightener spots, then it's going to process that way. So anything that looks a little harsh, I definitely like to just blend out so that it doesn't process that way. Another little trick that I like to do is place a foil over the very top of the head of my client, so that, because I'm going to pop her under the dryer to really help this process out all of this dark orange. And this is just so that the air from the dryer doesn't start to push its way into the foil and dry out the lightener. But yeah, that's my little trick for that. And I'm going to be placing my client under heat and checking her in about 15 minutes. I know that putting lightener under heat in the hair world is a bit controversial. Some people say absolutely not. Some people say that it's no big deal. I'm one of those people that think it's a very necessary tool at times to get a client lifted past certain warm colors, but I also do agree, like, it's definitely a cautionary thing. Like, you have to know what you're doing. So yeah, just be very cautious if you're going to be using heat at all. But I always check my client and make sure that their hair is strong enough to go under heat and stuff like that. And yeah, so I know my client's hair was super strong, so I popped her under heat for about 15 minutes. And yeah, this is the level that it lifted to. You can see that it's like probably a level 8, and it has some light orange still in it, but that's okay. That's going to be toned out. So now I'm going to be working on the color melt while she's under the dryer, continuing to process. Okay, so the formula for this color melt is definitely more of an advanced formula, so bear with me, and I'm going to explain why I'm using the tones. And so I'm putting 10 volume in each bowl, and I'm doing Matrix Color Sync, and I'm going to be doing a formula for the roots and a formula for the ends. And also I did like a little bit of a freeze frame on the color bowl in 1 second to give me more time to explain the color melt formula. I just wanted to let you guys know so that you didn't think your, video froze or anything like that. So the formula that I did for the root is 1 3/4 ounces of 6N, a 1/2 ounce of 5N. That's because I wanted to make sure the neutral was dark enough. I also added in a 1/2 ounce of 8V. That way the violet will cancel any leftover gold or yellow. A 1/4 ounce of 6G because I still wanted to keep the caramel tone, but I wanted it to be like a pretty caramel. Gold and violet mixed together usually comes out to be really, really pretty and like buttery kind of looking. So I sometimes do add golds even though I'm canceling them with violets, if that makes sense. And then I did a 1/4 ounce of 7 ash violet. That's another thing, like I wanted the ash to cancel any leftover orange in the hair for sure, because there's a lot of orange, but the violet I wanted to cancel the yellow. And yeah, so that's the formula for the root. Yeah, so this formula is going to help ash it out and also darken this root color closer to her natural. So I'm basically like all of these tones put together is bringing us to like a level 6 around, So I definitely wanted to make sure that it was dark enough but lighter than her natural. I don't want it to be like close to a level 2 or anything, but I definitely wanted it to be darker towards her root to erase any harshness. So it's going to process to be closer to like a level 5 at the root. Just so you know, I also added a pinch of 10 CG, just a little pinch of that into the root formula, because since we're doing such a dark level over freshly blonded hair, I didn't want it to turn any weird shade of green. So I added the CG just to kind of like make sure that wasn't going to happen. And this client also has a lot of hair. That's why I mixed up extra color in this formula as well. So I'm going to be equal parts 10 volume, and that's bringing us to like 3 ounces of 10 volume. So that's what I'm mixing for the root formula. And the formula for the ends is more simple. It's definitely more simple because I don't need to go as dark. And it's 1 ounce of 10G, 1 ounce of 8V, and that's, like I said, I like the gold, the caramel colors, but the violet's going to cancel any unwanted orangey yellow tones and give us like that nice buttery color. And then a 1/2 ounce of 9 mocha, and that's going to give us like that really pretty caramelly tone. So yeah, that's also equal parts 10 volume, so that's 2.5 ounces of 10 volume. And I'm going to let this sit and process for about 10-15 minutes. Okay, so now we're done with all the boring formula and the freeze frame. So this is what the client's hair looks like before I wash it out, after it's entirely done processing. You can see it's like a dark orangey, yellowy. It's like the level 8 that I was talking about. And if they've never gotten their hair colored before, or if they have super, super dark hair like my client does, I like to give like a little disclaimer and just make sure that they know that this is the in-between stage, and you're very aware that it's like crazy yellow and stripy and everything. So just to let them know that the formula that we mixed up for the color melt is going to darken the roots and soften all these colors and give us that like perfect color that we want for our goal. So I just like to add that little disclaimer. And the formula that I mixed up for the roots, now I'm putting this on the root, and I'm only touching this very front face frame just about a 1/2 inch down, and the rest of it I'm dragging kind of farther down in the back. That's going to give that really pretty like kind of halo where it looks lighter in the front and it starts to get darker towards the crown. So it's just a little bit of an angle there. But yeah, so I'm going to be painting the roots on all the way. And I think it's always super important to saturate really well. That way you won't have to worry about anything like being spotty or anything, because the hair is still wet, so there is a lot of water in the hair, especially if it's a little porous. Like it definitely has a lot of water then. But yeah, I just feel like oversaturating is a safe way to go about it instead of worrying that it's going to be a little splotchy and stuff. So yeah, I always like to oversaturate. And yeah, as you can see in the back here, I'm really dragging this down pretty far over the crown, like all the way to the occipital bone, like in the back of the head, because yeah, you're just going to get a really nice fade that way and blend. You always want it to be lighter in the front around the face and darker in the back, because that's how the sun would naturally lighten the hair, and that's what balayage is supposed to look like, natural and stuff. So And I always like to lay a foil horizontal on the other side. This is just so that when I flip the piece over to the other side and paint the underneath, it's not gonna like just mess up my, where I'm dragging this root color down. It's not going to mess it up on the other side, because I want this to be very even on both sides. And like I said, I don't want this dark color to get on areas where I don't want it to be, so this is just my way of keeping everything nice and neat and controlled. And I do try to get this color melt applied like super fast as possible, within 5 minutes, because I don't want it to process like unevenly. Obviously, where I'm putting this product on right now, it's already beginning to process. And by the time I make it to the other side, I don't want like the two sides to be uneven. And then the back, obviously, it's like the top and the front might be almost done, and then I just finished applying the back. Like if you take too long doing the color melt, I feel like it can mess up the timing a little bit. So I just say get saturated and slap it on real fast. Like 5 minutes should only take, because you don't want to mess up with the timing. That's just how I like to do it. And then I like to very carefully flip the hair back over to the side it's supposed to be on, and just make sure that this root color doesn't touch any of this blonde that's left over, where obviously I want the end formula to touch. So I'm just kind of like smoothing this back down. That way it's not like really bumpy or anything, and this root won't touch anything. And yeah, I'm going to start working on the other side now. I went ahead and I applied the color the same exact way on the other side of the face, and now I'm working on the back. Same thing, I put the foil there on the top to make sure nothing bleeds onto the parts that I don't want it to be on. And once I'm done applying all of the roots, I like to take my wide tooth part of the comb and just comb really quickly over the line of demarcation where that color ends, because it's going to melt into the other color, but this just gives you like a little bit more of that added diffusion to make sure that the two colors are nice and melted together. And I don't like to comb on the ends at all, because I don't want this dark root color to touch the ends at all. So I just like to be really careful and only comb where the line is. So yeah, I just like to point that out. I know some stylists like to comb all the way down, but I just find that it gets the root color on parts that I don't want it to be. So I just feel more comfortable only combing where this line is. And as you can see, the root color like already darkened this so much. So I love when it starts to process before your eyes like that, you know. And I'm just taking about like a 1/2 inch section and painting this ends formula on now. And I'm purposely kind of melting the two formulas together. Like it's okay if they mix, but you definitely just want to, I like to just start off by putting the ends on where they're supposed to be, like right where they are supposed to be, put the end color on, and then as it's, you know, processing, mixing the two colors together. And yeah, and then just flipping the piece over and working on the next sections. But yeah, I like to really, like I said, the hair is wet, so like I like to really saturate this color on it and just make sure that all the pigment is touching the hair. And I definitely want to mix the water and the formula together, like get it all good, you know, because I don't know, I just feel like I don't want to have to worry about it not taking or something because the hair is wet. But at the same time, it, like, the hair being wet does help apply this faster, and it helps the color to go like in the hair easier because it kind of like attracts the color in the hair, if that makes sense. Like the water kind of pulls the color in to the cuticle. That's like the good thing about being wet. So it's like, you know, I just like to point it out. Saturation is definitely key, and I always stress that. And then I kind of like shampoo it into the ends a bit to like really help it melt as I'm flipping the pieces back over and laying them down to like actually process for the 10 minutes or however long I leave it on. I let this sit and process for like 10-15 minutes, and then I took her back to the sink. I washed her, I conditioned her, brought her back to my station, sprayed like a nice leave-in conditioner, and now I'm drying it. And I like to dry like the very front first, like the bangs and the top of the hair, so we can really see how the color came out like right away. And we just like, I just love to see the big reveal like right away. I like to show my client because we've been at this for a couple of hours now, and I just want to show her right away, and I want to see it too. And yeah, I just love looking at it straight, and honestly, if you need to tweak anything, now is the time to do it. That's why I like to blow, also like why I like to blow the top and the front out first, because it's like the whole head, you didn't blow dry it yet, you know what I mean? So like if you need to tweak it with the, you know, formula, make it a little darker or whatever, or ashy or whatever, like, you know, you didn't go through the whole blow dry now and then have to like do the whole thing again, you know what I mean? So yeah, I just like to see the color right away. And then I always love to show them that they could wear it straight, and that the blend, it's very seamless even if they wear their hair straight. But I love beach waves, so I always try to do the beach waves. And right now I'm just breaking up the beach waves with my fingers with like a nice serum. I think I used Paul Mitchell Super Skinny Serum here. And yeah, I'm gonna be taking her to the backdrop now and taking some nice after pictures and after videos. But first I like to show them the back of their hair at my station so that they can kind of see it in the light that I've been working on it. Okay, and this is the final result. This is the caramel balayage all complete. We lifted her natural level 2 all the way up to a blonde and gave her like this caramel tone that we just absolutely love how it came out. It's very similar to the inspiration picture that she showed me. And yeah, her hair still has like tons of shine in it. It's super healthy, and I'm so glad how this turned out. There's lots of dimension still in the hair. That's why I just love leaving like the slices of their natural in between, because this is going to grow out so nice and seamless, and she doesn't have to worry about maintaining it really that fast. And like as it grows out, it won't have like any weird root or anything like that. And yeah, we just absolutely love the color. And like I said, I post the written out formula in its entirety because I know this one's a long one. I post it on my Instagram, so definitely follow my Instagram to see the formula all written out. I always post all my formulas on my Instagram, and it's linked in the description. It's at Maxine Glynn. And yeah, so follow my Instagram for that, and definitely subscribe to my channel, especially if you want to see more color videos and balayages and color corrections and color fill videos. Definitely check out all of the different videos on my channel. And yeah, subscribe and stick around for future videos. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it to the end here, you're a real one. And definitely share this video with anybody that you think it can help. I really do try to put like as much tips and information as I can into these videos because I know it can help a lot of people. I know I, wish this stuff was around when I was learning. So I'm using like my years of experience to try to help other people since I'm doing these colors anyway. So and I know I'm pretty good at explaining it. I know everybody tells me I am, so I really do appreciate those good comments, so thank you so much. I do try to put like a lot of information into these videos, so I really hope they help you, and definitely share it with people you think it could help also. And yeah, also leave comments or questions you have in the section below, and I'll definitely try to answer as many as I can. And yeah, alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
So give me your all. I'll take it to Mars. Oh, I'll stick like glue inside your mind. Just watch me breathe.